Hi, I'm Rebecca Rosen, a spiritual medium and best-selling author. For almost 25 years, I've been serving as a messenger for spirit and helping people strengthen their own intuition. Join me as we continue to explore, heal, and ascend through episodes centered around your questions, channelings from spirit, and powerful conversations with my friends and colleagues. How do we learn more about our soul contract, and will it interfere with our attempts to manifest? Does it evolve and change as we do? So I am going to break this question into 4 parts, okay? And we're going to start with part 1. And I really felt like we should kind of do a recap of what soul contracts are. I know I've talked in past videos and even my last season of my podcast about soul contracts, because I just wrote a book that revolves all around it in What's Your Heaven. But for those of you who are new to this conversation, let's just start with a 101 review of soul contracts. So if you're like me, there have been many times in my life where I've wondered, and why exactly did I sign up for this? Okay, whatever it is that you're going through in your life. And it really wasn't until I was introduced to this concept of soul contracts or a soul plan that I found clarity and comfort in whatever the challenge was that I was facing. Understanding this really helps to pull you out of victim consciousness, okay? Victim consciousness is the lowest frequency that a person can be at. And when you vibrate at that frequency of a victim, you're essentially telling the universe that you are a victim. And this comes down to the law of attraction. What you focus on expands, and what you put out there comes back to you, okay? So understanding that you're the powerful soul that signed up for all of this, it's part of your soul contract, allows you to break out of that victim consciousness. It allows you to take back your power, and then you naturally shift your own vibrational frequency as a result. So the idea, it's not happening to you. It's happening for you, and for your own soul's growth and evolution can be a really powerful way to reframe whatever you're going through. So we are in Earth School, okay? That's what this lifetime is. And we are here to learn universal lessons in this classroom of life. So for example, some of the homework assignments or lessons are self-love or self-worth, giving and receiving, unconditional love, maybe. Maybe it's patience, kindness, generosity, forgiveness, acceptance, oneness, humility, courage, faith, trust, and the list goes on and on. There's roughly about 30 or so that I've uncovered in readings, okay? But before we're born, we do a pre-birth planning. And this is where we meet up with our team in spirit. And essentially that team, the individuals responsible for helping us with this, they're a group of beings, of light beings called the Council of Elders, okay? So think of it kind of like having a board of directors, and you're holding a board meeting. And they are assigned to you, okay? You don't necessarily choose them, but these are enlightened beings who have your best interest at heart. And they help us design the details around our next incarnation that will best support our intentions and what lessons we're going to work on. And in that meeting with this Council of Elders, we appoint a specific team spirit that will cover you when you're in your body in the life experience. And so that team is made up of spirit guides and angels that will come and go throughout your lifetime based on whatever the lesson is you're learning at the moment. So we all come in with a soul contract, okay? And you can think of these kind of like a blueprint for your lifetime. It's a loose script outlining certain events, relationships, and encounters that will likely unfold along your journey that allow you the opportunity to learn those lessons. So you make this game plan, and you have basically plan A, but you have backup plans in place. So that would be like having plan B, plan C, plan D. And this is due to the law of free will, okay? Because Basically, the soul takes into account our free will choices and the free will choices of others. So, this soul contract is only a probability because the future is not set in stone due to our free will. The difference between plan A versus plan B or C is that one is less difficult than the other. Okay, it's not secondary, it's just different. It's less complicated. It's less messy, you could say. So we can get to our intended destination with grace and ease or pain and struggle, depending on, one, our choices, and two, the amount of resistance or allowance in our vibration. So I want you to think of if you get into the car and you're going somewhere and you're going to use navigation. Okay, so let's just say you're pulling up Waze to navigate a destination for your fastest, easiest route versus choosing not to use any, navigation system. And there's a chance that you may run up against accidents or traffic or a roadblock. And obviously that causes a detour or delay. But either way, we will get to the same place. Okay, and so I mentioned the Council of Elders. All right, they are the ones when we die and cross over that we're going to meet up with to do our life review. So again, they're kind of like having that board of directors. And they are really there to keep you on track, to kind of hold you accountable. When we die and do the life review, we really have to take an honest inquiry and inventory of our lifetime lived. And so they force us, they hold up a mirror to us and they hold us accountable. And they also help us before we incarnate back into a next lifetime, design the details around that incarnation. So together, the spirit along with the council seek to answer these questions by illuminating, think of on a white screen, what I've termed as sliding door moments, okay? So these are specific times in our lives where we were presented with a choice. Do we take door A or door B? So when you're in your pre-birth planning of your soul contract, your soul takes into account your free will choices, as I already mentioned to you, right? Knowing that there are many possibilities of how your life will play out. Therefore, while there is a best case scenario or door number one, okay, which we call plan A, it's not the only one in place. So plan A is the highest vibrational path that you can take, allowing you the greatest grace, ease, and flow. Okay, so the first door tends to open easily, leading us forward towards learning and advancement in this earth school. However, when we resist door A, we default to a backup plan, which becomes door B. The second door can be a bit stickier at times and harder to open, but with your strong will and a good shove, it'll give, right? And if we resist door B, guess what? Yep, door C comes into play, and so forth. So with each door that opens, it's a different set of experiences to allow you the opportunity to learn the same important lesson at hand. However, with each door you bypass, you're only making it harder on yourself because you are bringing into account lower vibrational energies of fear, which tend to lower your vibe and jam up your flow, okay? So the higher your vibration, the less suffering and the more joy that you will experience. It's really that simple. Except for that when it does open, door B tends to lead us back to where we started. So you've gotten nowhere. When you bypass door A and you choose the door that sticks, that resists, and that is the antithesis to your growth, we're given another chance to walk through a door that's organically opened up to us, okay? Allowing us to get back on track and in the flow of our life. So this doesn't come without a catch, okay? So each time you bypass a door and keep repeating the same pattern, okay? And you circle back around again and again, the doors become harder to open, and the consequences for choosing to bypass a door again and again, it sometimes can be detrimental and harmful and hurtful to ourselves and others. So the key thing to remember is the more loving decisions you make, okay? And the more you're in a state of allowance, the higher the vibrational path that's activated, okay? So that means making choices in the frequency of light and not our shadow. As Spirit often reminds me, you can learn your life lessons through pain and struggle or through grace, ease, and joy. The choice is yours, and the more you stay in alignment with your higher self running the show, the easier and the more flow-tastic life will be. So people often ask me what happens when we're in that loving state of allowance. However, someone else involved is in complete fear and resistance, therefore screwing everything up for both of us, okay? So it's totally not fair, right? Yes, I know. I know we've all experienced that. In this case, the first important thing to remember is that you're only in control of your own choices, even if you're in a soul agreement with another person to learn and grow together, okay? So you can only be responsible for your part in the deal. So long as you stay centered in your loving, high vibe self, your alignment will either inspire that person to get their act together and get up to speed with where you're at, vibrationally speaking, or they will naturally fall out of the picture as they are not a vibrational match to your frequency. So trust that the universe has your back and Spirit will reroute, opening up Plan B, which is, again, not necessarily secondary to Plan A. It's just a different experience filled with different details, but entailing the same overall lesson. It may feel less than, but that's only due to the fact it wasn't a straight shot or a smooth sailing in getting there with the delay and detour you had to take. So I hope that makes sense. So now we're moving on to part 2. For those of you who are curious to know more outside of what I've already shared with you just now in previous videos, last season's podcast, my books, I want to share a little bit more on soul contracts. So soul contracts help us to get off the karmic wheel by healing and balancing our unfinished business with whomever we have karma with, whether from this lifetime or past lives. These are intentional agreements with one another that we come into our life to play out, okay? So we're playing out these certain roles in order for us and for them to learn these lessons, heal, and grow. Okay, so they're an outline rather than a detailed layout. And Spirit often shows me sometimes a blank canvas, meaning we purposely left it open-ended at that point in our journey so that we could decide in real time the details, okay, when we get there. We have free will choices, okay? And basically, it's an outline and it will determine the quality of our experience, okay? And if we don't allow it to reach its fullest outcome and highest potential, it will likely circle back around again and packaged in a different form. Okay, it's kind of like Groundhog's Day at that point. So each relationship that we have is unique, and our chemistry is different with each person we encounter. With some people, we're just more compatible, and some relationships are more intense than others. And that's mainly due to the fact that we have a more in-depth and detailed soul contract with them to play out. You know, some relationships are brief, but super intense and very profound. And these can be referred to as a bump contract, okay? A bump contract is simply that. Someone who is literally dropped into your life. It's either a relationship or a situation that just kind of comes out of nowhere. And it's life-changing. But that's what it's intended to. It's kind of like a shake up to wake up. Okay, some relationships are more drawn out and less intense. However, they're equally important in allowing us to learn that intended lesson and balance our karmic debt. So how you know that you have a soul contract with a person is that you feel highly drawn to that person in a way that doesn't always make sense on paper. It's more like a feeling or a knowing deep within, okay? And we sense that there's something valuable to be gained from that relationship, even if we can't pinpoint what that is. We are simply attracted to our soul contract, okay? And that's coming from our higher self's guidance. So some soul contracts entail people who always seem to resurface in our lives when we are up and in, okay? We're on a winning streak. And some are when we are down and out, kind of on a losing streak. So these soul contracts are not coincidental, okay? They show up at just the right time. You know those friends, when you're just having a hard time and down and out, they just always seem to tune in and call you, check up on you, okay? And again, it's synchronistically, divinely designed that way to show up during particular highs and lows of our life. Soul contracts made with our parents oftentimes provide us with the perfect opportunity to challenge us. And sometimes they're really difficult, and sometimes they're actually abusive or destructive on many levels. But they are divinely designed this way to allow us to experience contrast. Okay. And this comes back to the idea, when we know what we don't want, we get super clear on what we do want, right? Because negative experiences create that dis-ease and internal friction within our consciousness, and they hold the potential to accelerate our awakening. We often learn the most quickly and efficiently when we experience contrast, and this is referred to as learning through opposites or duality. So that is why at the end of the day, we choose to incarnate into a body, into this earth world, this 3D earth plane, that is filled with duality and contrast. It's fertile playing ground for us to learn our lessons. Part 3 of this question: will it interfere with our attempts to manifest? I want you to consider this. If something is in your consciousness, okay, so a dream, a goal, an idea of something that you want to manifest or co-create in your life, and if you can perceive of it in your mind and heart, okay, it's your soul reminding your mind, okay, your human self, of a potential probability that exists in your soul contract. So while we can manifest from our ego or our lower self, it's kind of one of those be careful what you wish for, right? When we get into alignment with our hearts and souls, we manifest from this frequency of light or our divinity, which is super important, right? So that's why I always hear from Spirit that to remind people, pray for your highest truth and highest healing for you and all involved, to bypass your ego and ensure it really is coming from light and not shadow, okay? And so yes, your ability to allow or resist will most definitely interfere with what you are able to manifest. And finally, part 4 of this question: does it evolve and change as we do? So there's this thing called the Akashic Records, or the Hall of Records, on the other side, okay? And I want you to think of the Akashic Records kind of like a spiritual cloud, okay? So it's the energetic space that holds your soul's history over all your lifetimes lived, okay? And so basically, it's really important to update your Akashic Records after you've been doing a lot of work on yourself, okay? So energy work, healings that you might be doing, spiritual work. And so I'll give you an example. So like personally, I do a lot of work on my own. I use all my spiritual tools. I do a lot of praying, meditating, self-inquiry, journal writing, automatic writing, okay? And then I also work with a handful of different healers, okay, that are part of my ground crew that help me to heal my shadow, okay, so that I can continue to grow and evolve and become my highest and best self. Well, as I do that, it's really important that at the end of the work we've done that I update. I ask my guides, my team in spirit, to update my Akashic Records to reflect that, okay? And so basically, I'm stepping into a new level of my work. And in that, I'm currently going through this tremendous growth period, as so many of you are as well. I know that. And what's going on is, as I do my work, I'm going into a new vibration with new energy codes. Okay. And so I need my highest timeline, the highest 5D timeline available, because we can have many timelines that we could choose to go down as we continue to move through our life's journey. And you always want to get on the highest 5D timeline, okay, that is available to you. Because again, I don't know about you, but I want to learn with grace, ease, and joy. I am over the pain, suffering, and struggle. That is the 3D way, the old way, and I am done. Okay, so as my energy changes, it's going to change the energy around me and in my environment, right? Naturally. And so basically, I'm attuning to a new code and an updated version of myself. So again, that's why you want to always ask your Akashic record keepers. We all have one. It's kind of like a gatekeeper to those Akashic records, to update your Akashic records and the energy code, returning you to your highest divine wellness code, okay, in present time and space. If bad things continue to happen to me, does it mean I was a bad person in a former life? Can I break this soul contract to protect myself from circumstances or another person? Okay, so this is a good question. This is either a case of 1, a pre-birth contract, or 2, a case of a post-birth contract. So let me explain. If this is a case of a pre-birth contract, the answer is yes. Okay, let's say you made less than stellar choices in your past incarnation or many incarnations, or choices were made in the frequency of shadow. Okay, and you're back now in body in this lifetime to heal and balance that karma as part of your lesson plan that you agreed to work on. Okay. And if this is the case of a post-birth contract, okay, meaning it wasn't pre-negotiated or planned. It's being decided in real time. Okay. This really then is all about kind of that idea, you thought it, you got it. I talk about that in my first book, Spirited. Okay. But basically that means that your repetitive thoughts, feelings, and actions bring about your experience. Okay. And so basically you have attracted your current circumstances due to your vibration, because our outer reality is simply a mirror of our energy vibration and the quality of our thoughts and feelings that we are holding, which determines our level of consciousness. So this boils down to either the law of attraction or your epigenetics, okay? And I talk a lot about this in my newest book, What's Your Heaven? The epigenetics. Basically, it's where your environment influences your genes, okay? So this is where we can be impressionable as children. And, as our caregivers, our environment, our parents, they condition us to act and think in a certain way. And it's just kind of part of the human experience at times. So as the wise Wayne Dyer once said, we do not attract what we want. We attract what we are. And so it comes down to your level of consciousness, your energy vibration. And the second part of this question is, can you break the soul contract? There's no such thing as being bound by a soul contract, because they fluctuate with our life choices and experiences, okay? So it truly is just a tentative plan that we prearranged before being born. That will play out if and when we embrace it. They're always intended to be beneficial, even if they're unpleasant. But there's always a gift or a silver lining in it, meant for our soul's highest growth and evolution, if we choose to see it that way. But it's always to our advantage to bravely enter into them, allowing them to organically play out in whatever way they're intended to, so that we can neutralize the karma and not have to repeat it again in the future, be it later in this life or a future lifetime. And for that reason alone, we come in with spiritual amnesia, okay? So we purposely forget what we signed up for, and we go into it blindly on a mind level despite the fact that we know what it's about on a deeper soul level. Otherwise, we likely wouldn't go into it if we knew what it would entail. I mean, who wants to walk into a shitstorm voluntarily? I know I don't. So, how you know it's ran its course and is over is when you feel deeply you just no longer want to be in it. You are just totally over it and need out, okay? And you won't be drawn to that connection anymore. So the person, the lessons, the understanding that was needed will have a sense of being fulfilled and complete. Some soul contracts end with a good and peaceful ending, and some not so much. They're a little bit more complicated, messy, painful, maybe even negative, right? But the key is to stay out of judgment, good, bad, right, wrong, positive or negative. That is our 3D thinking. Okay? The goal is to see it as it just is. But either way, you simply feel complete and in need of moving on with your life. Okay? So that's your intuitive guidance. Feelings don't lie, my friends. So when in doubt or confusion, trust and follow your feelings over your head. Okay, so here's your answer. Yes, you can renegotiate your soul contract in most cases. This is what Spirit has told me. I've done many readings that involve this, and let's just say you bit off more than you can chew, okay? Realizing that you are overly ambitious in your pre-birth planning. You always have the choice on some level of your being, and Spirit has said through readings to some people in cases like this that they can visit their Akashic records and either tweak them, okay, the certain soul contract and some of the details, and the timeline that they're on, or they can negate it all together and move on to a different timeline. So we can also ask God and our guides to slow things down or tone it down. If it's going too fast or you're feeling too overwhelmed, it's just too intense, okay? Things are pretty much happening at lightning speed nowadays with the vibration of the planet shifting to this more 5D vibration. You know, there's literal science that's measured. The vibration of the planet is changing. It's accelerating, okay? And so for some people, especially empaths, people are super sensitive to energy, it's just too much and it's just too fast. And it's really overwhelming and it throws them way out of balance, okay? So if you need more time to process and integrate it all before moving on to that next chapter or lesson in store, say the word, okay? Have a heart-to-heart with God and your guides, your team spirit. How do you do that? You can do it in meditation by setting an intention, okay, to meet up with your council of elders to review and decide what you need to do. You can meet with them in a dream state, okay? A lot of us astral travel at night. We're not consciously aware of it, but we do. So when you go to bed at night, you can pray and ask to travel to the Hall of Records and meet up with your Akashic record keepers and your council of elders to review and decide. I just created a new meditation. It's calling back your energy for the nighttime, the dream time, and how to intentionally enter into your dream time state. Well, in there is an induction to do just that. So you may want to check that out if you need a little help. And you can also do this with a professional healer, a shaman, or a life between life therapist, someone who does regression work. And with their help, they can help guide you through this process. I've heard a little bit about the enneagram. Can you explain how it is used as a spiritual tool? So some of you are familiar with the program that I recently released with co-creating it with my brother, B, and it's called 9 Lives, okay? And so I'm going to explain just a little bit about this, but if for more information, we will link it to this. You can check out 9 Lives. It's an in-depth program, does a deep dive into everything Enneagram, and it's amazing. Like, truly, the reason I wanted to partner with him is because it's a tool he offered me when I was going through a very difficult, challenging time not too long ago. And it literally changed the trajectory of how I dealt with my soul contract homework, the lessons that I found myself in a spin cycle around. I'm like, why do I keep revisiting the issues around this subject in particular? Okay. Manifesting itself in different relationship after relationship. And it, at the end of the day, what Spirit always says is this: when we cross over, we have to be fully transparent with ourselves and our team in spirit. They hold up a mirror to us, and we have to take full responsibility and accountability for all of our thoughts, words, and deeds, all of our life choices. Well, what I've realized is I want to get this right now. I don't want to keep repeating Groundhog's Day over and over and over and into other lifetimes. Okay? I own it, and now I'm like, how? How do I do it? Well, that's when B showed up in my life with this amazing spiritual tool, and that's why I felt like this is life-changing. I want to share it with anyone who's feeling resonance with it as well. So what is it? Unlike any other personality typing systems that only deal with identifying who you are, okay? Kind of like Myers-Briggs. There's so many. I'm not going to name them, but you know what I'm talking about. The enneagram goes one step further, and it deals with why we do what we do, okay? So it's a system that helps to point out our shadow side, and it shows us where we go when we're unconscious, when we're making choices from shadow, and when we're in our reactive human nature, okay? So that's really when we're tired, cranky, you name it, we go unconscious and we go on autopilot, versus when we're aligned with our higher selves, okay? We're in a healthy, grounded place, and we're making choices from the frequency of light and operating from a more grounded, responsive approach. And in understanding our shadows, or the life lessons, or what I like to call our homework as part of our soul contract that we signed up for and that we are here to heal and balance, we can use that knowledge as power. And we can choose to proactively work with this system, the Enneagram, to help free us when we get in our own way, okay? So I like to consider it as just one more spiritual tool for that toolbox that shows us a pathway out of any spin cycles of pain and suffering and struggle that we may be experiencing, allowing us to become more conscious, awakened, and self-actualized spiritual beings having this human experience, okay? Because after all, that is the entire goal of our soul. We are here to do our work, to raise our consciousness and collectively the consciousness of the planet to a higher state of light and love. And when we fully integrate and embody this higher light and love, being true to who we really are, which is we are emanating the divine spark within us, we are sparks of divinity, we continue the journey of our soul's growth and evolution, okay? And so the Enneagram, to boil it down, the Enneagram centers around what is called the holy idea, okay? Which is the essential spiritual energy that guided us into this world. We can also refer to this as our core purpose as part of our soul contract, okay? And this holy idea, or core purpose, represents one of 9 fundamental energies or emanations of divinity. So there's 9 number types, okay? And while all of these energies exist within of us, one of them will be our dominant core type, and that will strongly resonate with us more than the other ones. So the holy idea of that number, okay, it acts as a beacon. It guides us on our soul's journey and purpose within this lifetime. So it's essentially why we incarnated. And the truth is, we have all 9 aspects, all 9 numbers, okay, are within us, which fall into a ranking order. So if you take the test, you'll get your top, you'll get all of them ranked in order. But then you'll get your top, essentially the 3, the head, heart, gut triad that you'll want to work with and look at. But despite that, one of them will be your dominant core type. And so it's key to not only look at that one type, but to look at all of it holistically, considering aspects within yourself that resonate in order to live a balanced 360 life, okay? And so if you're really curious, this resonates, B and I wanted to make this more relatable and accessible to all of you, myself included. And so in that program, what we did is, I downloaded a tremendous amount of information from my guides in spirit. And he took his wisdom and knowledge and all the training he's done over the years, including he's a rabbi and he's a therapist. Okay. And so together, we have a balanced 360 mind, body, spirit program that you can use to work through your shadow, to move more into your light, to become a healthier, balanced spiritual being having this human experience, and to do it with greater grace, ease, and flow. So if you're interested, if this resonates, we will link the information to the 9 Lives program. You can take the test to determine what your enneagram makeup is and get more information that can be used, again, as another spiritual tool if that calls out to you. If a person has hurt someone who also hurt them, say in a mutually toxic relationship, is that a soul contract carried out to completion between the two? Or is it necessary for the relationship to be healed and one or more party to forgive before the contract is honored? This is a great question, and it gives me the opportunity to talk to you about the primary reasons for soul contracts. So I want to share with you 5 reasons why we experience hardships in life, why we would include these and agree to these as part of our soul contract, okay? So the first reason is it's about balancing karma, all right? So it's all about what goes around comes around. So some things are best healed in the environment in which it was originally created. So that's why you would want to reincarnate to balance karma versus trying to do it on the other side, staying in spirit. You'll be way more efficient. It's way more powerful to do it back in body in the same context or environment in which you originally created the imbalance. The second reason is about healing. So the soul wants to come back into body to work on healing, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, or all of it, and evolving their soul light, okay, or their consciousness to higher levels of evolution. The third reason would be to be of service, okay? So this is all about what I call taking one for the team. This is all about you are a more balanced, evolved, older soul, we could say, and you don't really have that much to work on, but you are willing out of so much love for your fellow soulmates to come back into body and to play out a certain role, to be of service to them, to help them learn and grow. Okay, and maybe you have your own lessons to learn as well, but ultimately it's about being of service to others. The fourth reason is to experience contrast, okay, or learn through opposites. So this is all about we live in a world of duality, of polarity. That is what the third dimension is. The fifth dimension, not so much. It's unity consciousness. It's oneness. It's light and love and joy and bliss. Well, anyone who's here in a body knows that is not the experience of this world. We have that, yes, absolutely. And we have more of that 5D energy available to us now. We can live in that timeline. That's my book. What's Your Heaven? Bringing heaven to earth now, rather than waiting. However, the majority of this earth experience involves contrast, duality, because a lot of us learn through opposites. When you know what you don't want, you're crystal clear on what you do want, right? You can't really know and appreciate good unless you've been through bad and hard and challenging. So that is that. And then the final reason, the fifth reason Spirit has shown me is that some souls come in and they're more here for a breather lifetime. So it's not so much packed full with hardships, okay? There's not a ton of drama. There might be around them, but maybe not so much produced from them. And they're really just here to experience life and enjoy the ride. Sometimes, yes, that soul is here to be a source of light unto the world. And Spirit has called these beings frequency holders. They literally raise the vibration of the people around them. Okay. So if they're embodying all this peace and freedom and joy, they come into somebody's energy field or presence or into a room, and they literally bring the vibration up to that same set point or frequency. It's very powerful when you're in somebody's presence. And these are the gurus and the earth angels and the enlightened beings that walk on our planet. You know who they are. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's go back to the question. If a person has hurt someone who also hurt them, is that soul contract carried out to completion between the two? Let's talk about this. If this is a case of learning through opposites or contrast, okay? Meaning if the goal of the soul contract is for the person who originally caused the hurt to be on the other side of the table and experience the same hurt and pain that they originally caused the other party involved, okay? Or if this is a lesson on to be of service, okay? So meaning the victim agreed to play out this role to give that other person the opportunity to learn their lesson independent of the outcome, well, then the answer would be yes. This soul contract can be considered fully actualized, so long as they fully experienced, understood, and integrated the lesson. So let's say the lesson was humility and compassion for others, or honesty and integrity. And they were on the other side of the table, they fully experienced it, integrated it, then yes. However, if this is a soul contract case for the purpose of healing, or it's a lesson of balancing karma, then it would be necessary for both individuals to learn the lessons involved. Meaning, these two souls made a deal that they would play out these roles to help them really get it by experiencing it firsthand, what it feels like to be hurt, or to be the bigger person and choose forgiveness, kindness over hate and bitterness when faced with the impossible. So, in essence, they can really just thank each other for doing exactly what they asked the other to do before being born, right? I know it seems insane at times, but this is all really one big illusion that we live in, and it's a setup, okay? And our souls know, when our minds often forget, that this is all a temporary ride that we're on, and it's all intended for the purpose of our soul's highest growth and evolution. So let's say for the original perpetrator who caused harm, the lessons are humility, honor, honesty and integrity, and respect for others, okay? And for the victim, the lessons may involve self-worth or forgiveness despite betrayal. It could involve assertiveness, meaning standing up for oneself and taking action. So again, there's an aspect of free will involved here, okay? There are things out of our control that are going to happen. So inevitably, there will be things that we go through that aren't ideal or desired. But it's not what happens to us, but how we respond to what happens to us that matters. This goes back to the idea it's not happening to you, it's happening for you and for your own soul's growth and evolution. Why would a soul choose a short or traumatic life? Do these earth angels know they are earth angels? From what Spirit has told me over the years, there is a line infinitely long and around the block, lined up with very brave, old, evolved souls who are more than eager and willing to take on, take one for the team, as I like to say, and jump back into what we might call a compromised body for the sake of being helpful to another soulmate, okay, for the soulmate's growth and evolution, as well as their own. So perhaps this entails coming in with a physical handicap that limits them, okay, and as a result, those around them in certain ways. Or it entails mental health challenges that they may entail, a life full of hardship, pain, and suffering for them and, again, for those around them. Or it could be a relatively drama-free life, however, a life cut short by a tragic event. In all these cases, it generally turns out to be earth angels or more advanced souls who agreed to these challenging circumstances because they know that there is no such thing as death. And they also know that their role will only help to teach those around them the valuable lessons that they need to learn. So while in body, they typically do not know they're earth angels, okay? It's only usually after they transition back to the spirit world that they recall who they are and why they signed up for the mission. I do so many readings where spirits come through saying that they were deeply humbled at the remembering of the soul contract, okay? And that they really were very evolved, wise beings, even though it may have appeared otherwise because they had such a troubling existence on any level. So here's a great example. I have a client in Los Angeles, and I've worked with her a few times, and she lost 2 out of her 3 boys in their teenage years. I mean, talk about a very challenging soul contract, right? And so she told me that from the day her first son was born, she knew that he would only be here for a very short time. She just knew it. And it was like a deep soul knowing, but she also told me she had a very vivid dream before he was born showing her this. Okay. So as Spirit explained, it was her soul's way of reminding her on a conscious level that it was exactly as God had planned, which better prepared her to deal with this tragic loss when it played out, okay? So she herself is an incredibly old soul. She is absolutely an earth angel from what I have gathered in the readings we've done. Okay. And so she was only able to survive this type of soul contract, honestly, because of her innate soul wisdom. You know, that saying, God only gives us what we can handle. So she really was equipped to deal with this because her soul, as well as this one son, was playing out a contract with her soul family that would allow all of them to deepen their faith and trust while grow in consciousness. Okay. So their soul family had a soul assignment or life lesson or homework built around faith and trust. Well, the first son to come through her reading showed me that he died of cerebral palsy at the age of 16, okay? And his younger brother, who was still alive, he got involved in drugs, which resulted in him intentionally overdosing at the age of 23, okay? So she has one son, dies of a illness at the age of 16, and then years later, the other son, who couldn't cope, died of a drug overdose at the age of 23. So he shared in the reading that the son who died of the overdose, he struggled with survivor's guilt on top of using drugs as a mean to numbing his overwhelming unprocessed grief. There was a tremendous amount of regret around not reaching out for the professional help that he needed. Well, the son with cerebral palsy explained that nobody failed him. He wasn't meant to live past his exit point of age 16. He wasn't meant to live past his exit point at age 16. It was divinely designed this way to offer his surviving family members the opportunity to learn the lesson around faith, okay? As Spirit has explained in so many readings, it's in tragic events like this, it forces us to go one of 2 ways. We either go closer to God and guides and Spirit, whatever you want to call it, which ultimately is faith and trust, moving more deeply into our hearts and our souls, okay, as a way to make sense of it and to find meaning and purpose and heal. Or we move further away, causing us to become hardened and jaded, shutting down our hearts and usually losing our faith, trust, and losing our way altogether. In this case, the second son to die by suicide, essentially, with overdose, he fell into the latter case and he failed to learn the lesson at hand. However, they came through, both boys, explaining how the first son, which he called himself an earth angel, was now acting as a spirit guide to the remaining living brother, okay, now in his late 20s. And he was there to redeem the family karma by doing and being better, okay? Helping the living brother to rise up into his highest and best self and do and be better, which in turn was helping his brother in spirit to forgive himself, okay? So the second son who died of the overdose, he was helping, the living brother was helping him to heal on the other side. So this mom shared that her living son was somehow thriving in his life, despite all the hardship and pain that they have been through. Okay, she said this son was very spiritually aware, okay, and carrying on both his brother's legacies by being involved in foundations that centered around their life experiences, okay, supporting causes that related directly back to both the brothers. And she said that he gets vivid dreams from them both, okay, often, and that he relies on them through the dreams and through his prayer meditation practice for support and guidance in his life. So, this son, it's been explained, is not an actual earth angel, but he is working with his brother in spirit who is an earth angel. And in turn, he's helping the other brother in spirit to heal. So at the end of the day, these types of old souls, okay, that we can call earth angels, they know that there's no such thing as death. It's all an illusion. Energy doesn't die. It just changes form. And that we will all be back together again. And that until that day comes, we can continue to be together as we connect on the frequency of love, whether alive or dead, whether in a body or in spirit. I am an identical twin, and I would love to hear how soul contracts of twins are made. Are they different than soul contracts with others? Do twins follow each other from lifetime to lifetime? Are they individual souls or split souls? Do twins sign up to learn the same lessons together before coming to Earth? All right, there's a lot in this question. To put it simply, most twins, okay, that come in together, they usually have a very strong bond, okay? And they are usually in the primary soul group, okay? And they could definitely be considered soulmates. So as I talk about in What's Your Heaven, my book, I talk about soul groups. And I talk about how we have a primary, secondary, tertiary, and so forth. And I talk about how we have soulmates. And soulmates are not just lovers. They're not just romantic. They can be any really close, strong relationships where we travel in and out of lifetimes together, teaching each other and learning from each other important soul lessons, okay? So twins usually are two separate souls, not the same soul split. That is called a twin flame. That's a whole other question that we're not going to go into. Twin flames are one soul split. Twins are two separate souls, okay? But they have a soul contract, and they are generally soulmates, usually in the same primary soul group. And while many twins do follow each other in and out of lifetimes, okay, they don't always choose to incarnate as twins. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But they may choose to take on equally important and close, relationships, like they could be siblings, but they're 4 years apart, not twins one lifetime. Next lifetime, they are twins. It could be a parent and a child in one lifetime and not siblings at all. It could be your very best friend. You call them like a soul sister or a soul brother. And another thing Spirit has talked about is that some twins come into the womb together. Okay, so somebody finds out they're pregnant with twins, and one is acting like a guardian angel to the other and escorts that other one in, but then dies sometime during the pregnancy, okay, because that soul didn't really need a lifetime. Their whole purpose was simply to support and usher in that twin soul in utero, okay? So Spirit has shared, with me that this has happened in a lot of cases, that the soul that dies then goes back into the spirit world and it picks up where it left off on the other side, acting as a spirit guide or guardian angel to the twin that is incarnated in a body, okay? And they will be there for them as their biggest cheerleader. We could call it spirit guide, guardian angel, however you want to phrase it, right by their side, guiding them throughout their lifetime, okay? And that they were there just long enough to be known. They had a real presence that mattered, okay? And so it's important to point out that while twins share a really strong bond, again, they are not the same as twin flames, okay? So they have their own individual soul, thus their own soul contracts. So they will likely have a lot of overlap due to obvious reasons. They have a lot of times twins who are raised together. They have shared earthly details. There's some twins that are, born and for whatever reason divided up, if they're adopted and separated. I have heard of cases, but they always share that telepathic, etheric kind of bond to each other. There's some amazing stories out there on that, like twin telepathy. Some twins sign up to learn the same lessons, especially if pertaining to the parents or the family unit, because they share that in common. All the family dynamics, the epigenetics involved, family ancestral lineage stuff, okay? But also, in addition, they have their own unique lessons to learn as well, okay? So I'll give you an example. My stepdaughters, or my bonus children, Harper and Hadley, they are fraternal twins. They could not be more opposite. They are night and day, yin and yang. But it's beautiful because they are so not competitive, rather completely complementary of each other. And we joke that Harper came in truly to protect Hadley. She is like Hadley's bodyguard. She is here she's always had her back, and she's always been kind of quiet in the background, happy to be the wallflower. She was a lot like me, like doesn't need center stage, really happy flying under the radar. While Hadley, who is Miss Class President, really outgoing, she's an Enneagram 7, super, maybe she's a 3, Enneagram 3 or 7, but really, really bright light out there to do something big in this world. And Harper is there to protect her, okay? I just know that's her soul contract. Harper's here. She has her own lessons. She has her own beautiful path and purpose as well. But it's like if you said, what is her primary purpose? It really is to be there for her twin. And down to the point, Hadley decided to go over to Europe for college last year, and Harper decided she would go too. She really didn't care. She was just going with the flow. So Harper ends up at the University of Amsterdam and Hadley's at the University of Prague, but they're on the same side of the world. They're like an hour flight away. So Harper can be there if anything happens. Okay. It's so amazing. But the bottom line is that's one example of a soul contract. Okay. And there are some twins who are identical twins. And I have heard of them having competition issues. Okay. And that maybe their soul contract means they are here to learn, the same lesson around how to handle, being in a sense like you have a mirror clone walking around. How do you find your own individuality, be your own being? Because again, they are not the same soul divided into two. They were two of their own souls here to have their own earthly experience and to retain their autonomy and to, find their own unique gifts and purpose, okay? Despite the fact that they have this constant, in a sense, like mirror and competition right there. So at the end of the day, if I were to sum this up, twins are absolutely soulmates. They have a very special, unique bond. They usually share twin telepathy, okay? They have this unspoken, energetic connection, psychic communication that transcends most relationships. But just remember, you can have that with someone who's not your twin as well, but a fellow soulmate. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Small Medium at Large. For more information about my offerings and events, and for additional resources on your spiritual journey, please visit my website, RebeccaRosen.com. You can also follow me on social media by searching @Medium Rebecca Rosen on Facebook and Instagram. As always, I am wishing you brightest blessings and all love.